Welcome to the Resume Basics program from the Bellwood Public Library. We're here to set you up for success, so let's get into it. This is what we're going to go over in this program. We're going to start with wording and wording things on your resume, formatting, tools you can use for the formatting, the ATS or applicant tracking system, exceptions to the rules, tips, and our Job Seekers Toolkit, which is a very recent publication on our website. Let's start with wording, and this is how you write what you did on your resume. You really want to use verbs, especially action verbs. I will have a link in the description of this video to a good website to look for good action verbs for different jobs. These describe what you did, so rather than saying was cashier or worked as cashier, you would say checked out customers, or rather than was teacher or worked as teacher, taught class of first graders. You also want to look at the job description and what words do they use. So if they use checkout, you want to use checkout. If they use cash out, you want to use cash out. Try to match the job description as much as you can, as long as it's accurate. If you can put your achievements into numbers, that's great. That's going to help them really understand what you did and what you were able to do, and consequently, what you might be able to do for them. So let's say you worked in loss prevention. Instead of just caught shoplifters, it might be caught 10 shoplifters per week. If you were a teacher, rather than just taught first grade, you might say taught class of 26 first graders. You also want to try to focus on skills and achievements so that you can show them what you can do, what you have done, and what you could do for them. So customer service skills, for example, are incredibly transferable across different fields. So emphasizing those skills, that ability to work with all different customers and do so while making them feel comfortable and welcome, is really important. If you can also focus on achievements, like did you update a system that they used at work? A note about the tense of your resume: for your current job, you want to have it in present tense. So checks out customers, check out customers, teach first grade. And for your previous jobs, you want to have it in the past tense: taught first grade, checked out customers, prevented shoplifting. Analyze data, whatever you did, past tense for your old job, present tense for your current job. You also want to tailor your resume to each job or field that you're applying to. Now, I hear you, tailoring your resume for every job you apply to is exhausting. Absolutely. So it's much more important to tailor to each field and then tweak small things within each resume for each job, if you can. If you're looking at, say, retail and customer service and office admin positions, they will want different things. So look at those job ads, look at those job descriptions, and see what it is that they're focusing on, what they really want. You can also look at the resumes or LinkedIn pages of people in that same field to find out what they focused on. If you look at their LinkedIn pages, you can read the way that they wrote about their previous jobs. We also at the library have books full of example resumes from different fields. And in the Job Seekers Toolkit, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, we have links to places to find example resumes as well. The format of your resume is important because more than likely, it will only be looked at for about 30 seconds before whoever's looking at it decides whether you're going to move forward or you're never going to hear from them again. So you want it to be as clear as possible. A resume is not a full catalog of every job you've ever had. You can leave things off, especially if they're irrelevant. Now, if this will leave you with a large time gap, I wouldn't do it, but you don't need to list everything. Your resume should be 1, maybe 2 pages, depending on how much experience you have. 2 if you have more, 1 if you have less. You'll want to cover 10 to 15, maybe 20 years of experience, if it's relevant. If your older experience isn't relevant to what you're doing now, go ahead and leave it off. If you have less than 10 years of experience, don't panic. You will be fine. You also want to have clear separate sections for education and experience. Usually education is on top and experience is underneath it, but if your experience is more relevant than your education, go ahead and flip them. That's perfectly fine. You could also include relevant volunteer experience in its own section, but again, only if it's relevant. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you've been working retail and now you're applying for a teaching assistant job, but you've never taught. However, you did volunteer with an after-school tutoring program. That's very relevant, so go ahead and include that. Put it in its own experience category, volunteer experience, and mention it in your cover letter. You'll want to use bullet points, not paragraphs, in most fields. Again, it's only being read for a short period, so bullet points are going to get your point across a lot more quickly. You want to keep it in black and white, 1, because color will make the file size a lot larger, and 2, because that's just considered the norm. This is a little different in some other fields like graphic design, but we'll talk about exceptions later. A really important thing is do not put a photo on your resume. A lot of people think, oh, I have a lovely smile, I'm so friendly looking, and I'm sure that you are, but they can find that out in the interview. You don't want to put a photo on your resume for a couple of reasons. One, you're taking up valuable space that you could use for previous job experience or education experience or volunteer experience. And two, unfortunately, you are opening yourself up to the potential for discrimination, even if the hiring manager doesn't mean to. Photos will show your race, maybe your religion, depending on head coverings or things like that, your age, and these are things that people sometimes do discriminate on, unfortunately. You also want to avoid an objective statement. Sometimes people still use them. It's not the end of the world if you do, but you're taking up valuable space when we all know that everybody's objective is just to get the job. Lastly, you want to keep your formatting simple. This is partially because of the ATS, the applicant tracking system, which we'll talk about in a moment, and partially because you want it to be easy to read. You don't want your resume to be complicated or difficult, because that will just make somebody go, not worth it. And you want them to read your resume because you want to get the job, and I want you to get the job. Here's a great example of what not to do. This is a stock photo from Canva when I searched resume. You can see they have what would be a photo, like we just said. Photo is not a good idea. This complicated formatting is lovely, but it will get eaten up by the ATS, which we'll talk about in a minute. It also has date of birth, which I've never seen on a resume, and which, like the photo, could open you up to discrimination because, unfortunately, age discrimination is a thing. So formatting is intimidating, so let's talk about some tools you can use. To be clear, I don't format my resume from scratch either. I use a template. Microsoft Word, OpenOffice, and LibreOffice, those last two are just open source word processors. They all have templates. Resume Builder is a website that'll be linked on our website as well as in the description of this video. You put in the information, it does the formatting for you. You could also use a template from Google Docs. That's the one I use. When using templates from any of these, just make sure that it follows the same basic ideas that I just talked about, because sometimes these formats, these tools want to give you these beautiful, complicated graphic design formats, but they'll get eaten up by the ATS. Have you ever applied for a job where you had to upload a resume and then also fill out a form with all the same information? That's because of the applicant tracking system, or ATS. This is an online system that is the first pass at all resumes before human eyes look at them. They're designed to weed out resumes of people who aren't qualified, don't have the right skills, haven't done anything similar. But the problem is that an ATS doesn't read graphics or color well, and complex formatting can leave your resume garbled in its system, so information is all mixed up, and even if you have the exact right skill set, if the information is all messed up in the ATS, you're going to get weeded out. That's why I talked about simple formatting so much, because not all ATSs use that form you fill in, and even when they do, sometimes they still use the information they scraped from your resume, and if it gets messed up like this, it can weed you right out. If you want the best chance at getting that job, you have to get past the ATS. For the ones that use a form where you have to put all your information in, keep a regular document copy of your resume so that you can just copy and paste. The number one most important tip I can give you for resumes is don't lie on your resume. This can and often will cost you the job. If an interviewer or hiring manager finds out that you lied on your resume, they will pull you out of consideration. Even if they've offered you the job, they will pull the offer. If you are in the job and they find out that you lied to get it, there's a good chance you'll get fired for that. It is just not worth it. Don't lie on your resume. The next tip is to keep a copy in a PDF form and a doc form. This way you can update the doc as needed and then export to PDF, because it's a lot easier to do that than try to update a PDF or take the PDF to the doc format to update it. Much easier to just keep two copies. You can also copy and paste from the doc for the ATS, and no matter the format preferences of the place you're applying, you have something you can send in. If you want to be very tech savvy, you can also keep a TXT version. This doesn't have formatting, just the text. So for very picky ATSs, this can be a really good idea because you can copy and paste it and all it has is the text. There is no formatting to mess it up. Lastly, I recommend having two running versions of your resume. This is what I did when last job searching. I had a regular one that I submitted and an extended cut. The extended cut has everything. Every job, every volunteer gig, all your education, all your certifications. You keep this with everything, and then when you're tailoring your resume for different jobs or different fields, you use this as your base of operations, so to speak, to then create the tailored resumes for different jobs. I said before that I would discuss a couple of exceptions to the formatting rules I talked about. These are them. In graphic design, you'll want to do a different format because you'll want to show off your abilities. For acting, modeling, brand rep jobs like that, you would put a photo on your resume because your appearance is a part of the job. This is our Job Seekers Toolkit. This is a page that we recently published on our website that has resume and cover letter tips, examples, job posting sites, career advice, local resources, online resources, learning resources, library materials, a little bit of everything. The link to this will be in the description of this video, and you can also find it by going to our website and searching Job Seekers Toolkit. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this serves you well, and I hope that you get the job of your dreams. And remember, you can always type up a resume or apply for jobs on the library computers. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!